All right, welcome back. And we're going to take a look here at Char Siu Baozi with a Nectarine Sriracha glaze. And so if you're wondering what in the world Char Siu is, it's a barbecued pork. And what I'm doing here is making the marinade for that barbecue pork. And if you're looking for the exact ingredients that I'm using, feel free to take a look at the recipe on the webpage. Now, Char Siu is very easy to recognize because of its iridescent red color, and the way we get that red color is by adding red dye. So if you do not want the red dye in your barbecued pork, don't feel you need to add it because it actually doesn't affect the taste of the flavor of the pork. Now, what we're going to be doing is stuffing this Char Siu into bao, and the bao is what we call a steamed sweet dumpling. And then we're going to go ahead and steam that dumpling. But the first thing you need to do, and a lot of times I'll make this the day before. I'll mix up my marinade and then I'll take my sliced pork, and most of the time I'm using either pork butt or pork shoulder. Now, just like any pork, you're going to trim off that excess fat and make it into more manageable pieces. I'm trying to get them about an inch thick here. And then I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to start poking holes into that pork. And all that's going to do is let that marinade get into the pork that we let set overnight inside a refrigerator. The longer you can do this, the better the flavor is going to be. I always do mine overnight. Once you're done, you're going to take that pork out of the refrigerator, drain that liquid, and you're going to let that come to room temperature. And then you're going to roast this pork, and you can roast the pork in the oven or you can roast it on the grill. It doesn't really make a difference. And once it's done roasting, let it rest, completely cool down, and then you're going to slice that up into bite-sized pieces because we're going to add this to that baozi that we're going to be making here in a second. So baozi is a steamed dumpling, and it's actually really, really easy to make. You can either make it by scratch by following my recipe below, or you can go to the grocery store and buy a package of premix. Just one note, a lot of times the Chinese to English translation is really, really bad and very difficult to understand. The last thing we're going to take a look at here is the sauce, or for some reason I called it glaze the first time I did this. And that is going to be a Nectarine Sriracha glaze. Now, this is obviously not a traditional thing to use with baozi. It's just something that I came up with that I thought would taste really well with this dish. Now, in general, this should be a pretty easy video to follow. What I'm doing here is I'm sifting the flour for this sweet dough. And once you've done this, you're going to add the ingredients. You're going to dissolve the yeast in some water, and you're going to let that rise for an hour or two. And then you're going to roll it out. And I think the main technique here that you need to grasp from what I'm doing is how to roll out the dough to put the meat inside of the bun, and then they fold it. Look, I'm not a professional at this. I do the best that I can. I make these once or twice a year. And do they look anything like you would get if you went to a restaurant? Absolutely not. But they taste exactly the same, and that's what's important. It's not how it looks, it's going to be how it tastes. When you're rolling these out, if the center is too thin, when you cook them, they're going to kind of ooze out and stick. So you want a little bit more dough in the center than you do on the edges. And the way you're going to fold these is really just kind of a pinch and rotate, pinch and rotate, pinch and rotate. They stick together really easily. Once you're done with that, you're going to make sure that you put a little teeny piece of wax paper below them. If you don't use wax paper or something below them, they will stick to the bamboo steamer in this case, or whatever steamer that you have. The sauce is pretty straightforward. I'm just taking everything here and I'm adding it to a little mini food processor that I have. And I'm just going to blend that up until it's completely smooth. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and simmer that for about 5 minutes just to slowly reduce that and kind of incorporate it and get all those flavors mixed together. And then I'm going to let that cool down to room temperature. The last step that you see here is just me using a bamboo steamer. You're going to go ahead and steam those dumplings for about 10 or 15 minutes until they're done. And that's it for this recipe on Char Siu Baozi with a Nectarine Sriracha sauce.